It's very easy to see as I've gotten older that faith is a difficult thing to maintain, especially when there have been so many corrupt people or snakes in the grass and so much conspiracy behind what it is to be either a Christian or a Catholic or whatever kind of path you have or don't have. It's very easy to see that there are a lot of messed up things in Christianity and in the church itself. Now, be that as it may, some people maintain their faith, like myself, and they decide to see the light side and the darkness. They realize that the people that are doing all these negative things don't represent the church. They hide behind the mask of what is the church, feigning all their good deeds to the demons that are inside of them. Now, as things happen in your life, some people witness their child being lost through a matter of medical circumstances, or miscarriage, or they lose a parent, or you lose a pet, something. It's just a close connection with somebody can put a huge damage on what faith you may have at the time and throw you right into the gutter. I myself, being a matter of, I would have to say, a medical phenom and a marvel of faith at that point, because I was born 2 months early and the odds were against me. I was born less than 2 pounds and here I am today. I would have to say that is part faith and part medical marvel. So 50-50 split on that matter in my eyes, and that has definitely driven my faith to maintain its status even through all the corruption and evil that goes on in the Catholic Church. But there have been people that don't take that as well as I have. There have been people that would have it hit themselves harder, and as they struggle to maintain their faith, they still look up and ask God, why? What can I do to make myself better? One of the artists that definitely asks this question on a consistent basis in all the right ways is Sadistik. He is an artist hailing from Seattle, Washington. He is a very profound artist, one of the most interesting people that I've found out about within the last 5 years. And I found out about him on a pure whim off a blog post that featured a song that was on his record Ultraviolet that had Tech 9 on it, which, listening to it, prompted me to get the vinyl. And it's an amazing record. I highly recommend you guys listen to it if you have the time. I also recommend this current EP that I'm reviewing called Salo Sessions 2, just in case you guys didn't read the title. It's a very good introspective record, and it's very short. It's probably like 10 or 15 minutes of your time, so if you can't afford that, then what the heck are you doing listening to music in the first place? Also, it's almost like this is a B-sides to his 2017 project Altars. I highly recommend that. I highly, highly recommend that. It's a very good project. Now, starting off this record, I would have to say that he starts it very strong. For the matter of him talking about how his potential to be an angel is so long gone and it seemed forsaken after his father had passed. That is one of the main things that he does gloss over as his records have been aging. He talks about the passing of his father and the passing of his best friend, Idea, and it's very strange to see how even after so many years you can still find inspiration in all those negative things, but you can also find inspiration in the positive things, like the fact that you are a lyricist, you have a fan base, you have the ability to touch these people and let them know your story, and although you're struggling with your faith, you find ways to build yourself back up with the fans that you've acquired. The song After Kerosene Dreams is called Yokai, which is, I would have to say, something relative to seeing the demons or monsters inside of people, given that yokai is a supernatural monster type thing, and it's also piggybacking off of Yokai Watch. Not this song title specifically, but what I remember of it. And that's like a Pokemon copycat, which is very strange, but a lot of people liked it and didn't like it, nevertheless. Anyway, I would have to say that song covers the demons inside of people. Song after this is called Crown, which, although Sadistik says it in the beginning of each verse, it's very difficult to tell that he's feeling narcissism, because as I've listened to his records over the past few years, I definitely don't hear it. I don't see it, especially when you listen to somebody and you want them to be at the level of success as these other artists, independent and mainstream. But you know that they won't find that niche audience. They found it where they are in the underground, and a lot of them are happy with it. And it seems that Sadistik sees himself as being narcissistic, which I can understand given the elements of what he talks about, but I don't see it as a fellow artist. It doesn't seem to be that all he talks about is himself for the sake of talking about himself. He talks about himself to lift his fans, to lift himself in the process as well. It's a very difficult thing to at least cover, but it's also a double-edged sword. With hurting yourself in the process, you'd also be hurting your fans, so I guess that's how he would see it. Now, the song after this is called The Way Down, which features Triz and production from The Virus and Antidote. Now, I have done work with The Virus and Antidote. I've been very pleased and just surprised like no one's business. I've linked the song in the description before, and I'll do it again because it's actually gotten 3,800 hits now in less than a month, which is amazing. So thank you, Virus, for the opportunity. Triz is honestly the MVP of this year. This man has 2 records, another record coming out, which is his 3rd America's Most Blunted with Chewy. This man's doing so much stuff this year, it's crazy. And I have to throw my hat off to you, Triz. You're doing phenomenal. And the way that you killed it on this song, it's just like you're proving my point. And Sadistik definitely holds himself up there. I didn't think it would be as good of a song as it did, but their styles match well. If it would be feasible, I would like to see a couple collaborative efforts, maybe even a small EP that would feature them going back and forth with one another. But maybe that's not in the stars yet. Who knows? The song after this is called Echoes, and it's almost like he's watching as the time has gone by, and he's just feeling himself fade away. It's just, this man speaks so highly of himself, but he can also speak very low of himself at times. It's almost like he's very understanding of how it is to be his yin and yang. Now, the song after this is called Heaven's Gate Away Team, which talks about the Heaven's Gate cult. And he starts off the song by saying phenobarbital mixed with applesauce and vodka, which is how the entire cult had decided to mass suicide. And I found out about this recently, which also is another thing that Sadistik does. He likes to educate the listeners on things that have happened in time. He talks about Cody Koresh and Jim Jones. It's just, he talks about all these things that have happened in time with cult and people that are seen as to have a cult following. And I kind of see the connection, especially with his music, because not a lot of people that listen to mainstream music would listen to Sadistik. He himself has a cult following, so I understand where he's coming from with that, but I would say he's far from setting up a whole bunch of people in an area and then having them off themselves with the Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? So it's a very, very well done song. I really enjoy it, especially with the references. If you want to educate yourself on what happened with the Heaven's Gate cult, go ahead. I mean, looking into cults and stuff like that really isn't for the lighthearted. So if you want to educate yourself at your own risk. It's just those kinds of things. You can find like audio tapes of Jim Jones talking about his cult and everything. But anyway, this record finishes with a song that was remixed for, I would have to say, the main purpose of them being buddies back and forth on Twitter. I've seen a couple conversations with these guys, and Sadistik and Slug Christ have definitely reached that level of friendship that I was hoping that they would have a song either on one another's record sooner or later. I'm so happy that I had the chance to hear Slug on this record. They are so very well balanced together, and it's almost like Slug is Sadistik's little brother hopping on the record. I really enjoy listening to Slug's music. his album that came out, I believe, earlier this year, and even his EP from last year, It's Colder at the Bottom of the Shower, and even sometimes even The Moonlight Hurts My Eyes. Like, his music is definitely, it's almost like it's very Lil B inspired, and he's a very interesting artist. He's not for every person to listen to. I think that's just because of how he approaches his music. He's almost like grunge rap, I would have to say. I think that's the best way to put it. Nevertheless, they both do phenomenal on this record. Ronnie J produces the song, and it's an amazing piece. I highly recommend you guys listen to this record. That is all I have to talk about for this record. I highly recommend you guys listen to it. It is phenomenal front to back. I also recommend the other records that I talked about in the beginning, Alters and Ultraviolet. Please listen to all of them if you have the time, but listen to this one specifically. It's a very good gateway album to listen to Sadistik. I highly recommend it. Now, next week, I'm going to be reviewing the brand new High Res album, Humble But Hungry. This man has stood amongst the lights of Eminem, Bun B, and Nicki Minaj on the iTunes charts, album charts today, and it speaks a lot on his character. This man has no label, no huge budget. He's just rolling with himself, and that is amazing to see that he is right there with the rest of the gang. So I think that's all that I have. Thank you for coming and watching. Sadistik, if you see this, I'm a huge fan. I highly respect your work. I really, really enjoy everything you brought out, and especially this EP. It's amazing. To everyone else, enjoy your weekend. If you haven't listened to M's new album, Kamikaze, listen to it. And, yeah, stay selfish. Enjoy your weekend. Peace.